Ready? Welcome back. It's another episode of the Get Out There Project podcast, your one-stop podcast where we talk about hunting, fishing, talk about the Get Out There Project, and we talk about how the outdoors relates with life and how life relates with the outdoors. I feel like it's a double-edged sword there, so they go hand in hand. So without further ado, I got Logan sitting next to me. He's in the studio today, and we're going to be talking about hunting and fishing. And without further ado, we're going to start by talking about our routines, hunting and fishing wise. So superstitions, routines. As outdoorsmen, I feel like we're a pretty superstitious group. If something works for us once, I feel like it works. Like we try to relive it so that we get the same luck that we had that day. I know for me, a big one is saying a prayer before I go out hunting. If I don't say what prayer and I don't see deer, I always am like, oh, I didn't say a prayer before I went out. And I always feel like the days that I have the most luck is when I pray before I go out hunting. I feel like that's just a big one. I don't know if it's maybe clears my head and gives me a better mindset going into the hunt. I feel like a lot of me being in the outdoors, I'm very faith-based within it. I feel like it brings me closer in faith since I've been an outdoorsman, especially since I started hunting. I feel like my faith's grown, and I feel like that's a really big thing when I go out, just to be sure to thank God just for the blessings to be out there and all the blessings He gives us. And I think that's a huge one for me. Fishing-wise, I don't know how many superstitions I have fishing. I would say my biggest superstition, I think, is summer kale versus when it's cold out. I feel like if I have to go out and I'm all bundled up in like cold clothes, I don't fish well, and I don't understand. And it's proven like if I'm in it, like if it's like really cold and I'm out in a sweatshirt like all bundled up, people are fishing better than me. But once summer hits and I can wear a cutoff or I can wear short sleeves, sunglasses, whatever, I fish really well, and it don't make sense to me. And I don't know what kind of superstitions you have fishing-wise or hunting-wise, but those are probably my two big ones. I'm retying your knots. I get just like being worried about that, but I'm very routine, like 2 or 3 catches and or even just bites, and I like to retie my knots, especially in tournaments. That's a big thing for me. I feel like that's for every fisherman too, or else you're gonna lose fish, and you know how that goes.
Oh yeah, well, I'll start with fishing. Like, you know me, these guys, Kale and Tate and all those guys will go fishing when it's like 50 degrees outside. Not going to do that. And these guys know. They'll call me and be like, hey, we're going fishing today. You want to go? Be like, is it 75 degrees out? I'm not going.
He's the worst. It's got to be above 60 at least.
For like 3 or 4 days.
Oh my goodness.
Like, if I'm going to go out there and freeze, I'm not going. I'm staying home.
Like, me and Tate will go fishing. It's like 40 to 45 degrees out. We're like, oh, should we invite? No, never mind.
I'm not going.
We cut each other off before we even finish the sentence.
Don't even bother it.
We know he ain't going. So,
But I would say, like, my fishing superstitions were, like, well, first of all, a lot of guys say it's bad luck catch fish on first cast. So I'll cast out quick and just reel it in really fast. That's always my first thing, is I don't want to start my day off catching a fish and then be like, oh yeah, it's going to be a good one, and then suck the rest of the day. That, and then there's a lot of ponds I fish, or even lakes, where I'll go back to the same spot that I know I can catch fish at right off the bat, just so I get the skunk out of the boat. Skunk out of the boat or skunk off my back. Like, I hate.
I feel like that's huge. I feel like if you get like an hour in and you haven't caught a fish yet, because I'm a very mindset based outdoorsman, like hunting and fishing both. If my mindset's not right, I already know I'm wasting my time.
Oh yeah.
So getting the skunk out of the way is huge, and it's big because if you go fishing and then you have to go back and tell your buddies that you didn't catch anything, you better be making up stories.
How'd you catch them today? You're out there for 12 hours. Oh, dude, I tore it up.
You got to get real good at Photoshop fish into pictures.
This is a tip for you, kids. Always bring an extra shirt with you when you go fishing, and then you take a picture with your first fish, and then your second fish, you take another picture with a different shirt on. That way, nobody knows you got skunked.
Exactly. Always, this is my thing. Always just like wear the same outfit. Just always wear the same outfit when you go out fishing. Get rid of the skunk off the bat. Save some pictures. Don't show anybody.
Or just don't wear.
It can be like a 12-inch fish, and you just have to have that story.
Hit up the angles.
Or I mean, when you go fishing alone, it's good. You can always lie. And there's no way to prove your point that you didn't catch it or you did catch it. So.
Or if you're in. You and your buddy.
Well, it sucks for us because we film. So.
Yeah. You and your buddy you're fishing with both get skunked, then you both can be like, we just caught a couple. But if your one buddy's catching fish and you're standing on the bank with your pole laying on the ground because you're not catching anything, he's telling everyone.
Oh, my goodness. Especially if your buddy's name starts with a T and ends with 8.
Yeah.
Because Tate he would brag. He's a bragger.
Sells you out faster than anything.
He'll be like, I was catching everything.
Like, me and Kale fought off 2 beavers with our fishing poles. They were broke. Tate's like, that's not true. You guys suck. Sweet.
You can't go out with a buddy and not catch fish. You have to know that where you're going, you're gonna catch fish. If you're in control.
Yeah.
If you're not and you're not catching fish, you better. I don't know what you're gonna do. You better buy him lunch or something so he ain't out telling everybody because you'll be screwed.
All I know is that when we go fishing, I'm not friends with anybody until I catch a fish.
That's true. Oh, but if we start catching fish and Logan's not catching fish, he ain't friends with anybody the rest of the day.
I'll quit.
But I feel like that's for everybody.
We went fishing. Okay, here's a story for you. We went fishing a pond last year. It's Tate's family pond. And they got me out of the house. It was like 60 degrees.
It was just 2 years ago. It was
50 degrees.
It was our first video.
Yeah.
I know exactly
50 degrees. Finally got me out of the house. I was like, all right, whatever. Brought one pole and whatever was tied on it. That's all I brought. I was like, dude, I don't even want to be here. So we're at this pond. It's a pretty small pond. We're casting. I missed like 3 fish in a row. So, mad anyway. I look over. These guys are reeling in fish. Like every cast. So I move over there just to make them mad. Not catch anything. They're over where I was at, catching fish. I end up just laying on the bank on like this pretty steep embankment, laying on the bank, filming from across the pond.
Let me tell you, that pond, that might be one of my luckiest ponds and unluckiest ponds at the same time. That's the pond where I got pissed because Tate was catching. We're using the same bait. This was the first video. That's what story I thought you were telling. We were using the same freaking bait, and he kept
that one was fish. Funny.
And he went to the spot that I was at, wasn't catching fish. I moved to where he was catching fish at, and then all of a sudden I hear him catch a fish. Like, you know how, like, if you're fishing with your buddy at a pond, you can tell when they're catching a fish.
Oh yeah.
And this is like his 4th fish, and we've been fishing for two or 3 hours, and I ain't caught a fish all day. I threw my shit, was just like pissed, taking my sweatshirt off.
Where I was sitting on the bank with the camera, the only thing I could see was the fishing pole getting thrown up in the air, and then the sweatshirt right behind it. Then you went behind a tree, and then the boots come flying off behind the tree.
Biggest meltdown ever. And if you're a real outdoorsman, you never had a moment where somebody's been catching more fish than you, and you didn't flip out, you're a liar. Because everybody flips out.
If you've never freaked out, you are a liar.
And some people freak out in their heads, but everybody's had that breakdown.
Sometimes you never know, like your breakdown could be on somebody.
Exactly. It can get bad.
I was fishing with my buddy Will one time, and I had like a 74-pound bass on.
74.
And he goes, I said, I need you to come down here because this bank's too steep. I can't get down to the water and pick this thing up. It was like laying on the bank. It literally looked like a football laying on the bank. He's like, okay. So he's taking forever. I'm like, dude, this thing's going to get away. So he's taking forever.
Fishing with Will is a struggle.
So I'm holding my rod up, reeling it up as I'm sliding down the bank. Literally get down there. He like freaking runs into me. I put slack in the line. The fish feels the slack, jumps, flops my lure. I turn, I throw my pole at him. Throw it at him, and he's like, sorry, dude. It's a 74-pounder. That's a world record.
Oh, man. That reminds me of when I lost that big fucking cat. Nobody was with me this night. I was catfishing. One of the first times I ever really catfished. And because the people that own this pond, we don't fish there no more. BK.
Oh, yeah.
people that own this pond said there were like 3 foot long catfish in there, and I was like, no way. I was out catfishing, was using like bluegill cut in half. Was reeling this thing in probably 15 minutes fighting this thing. It was dope. Get it to the bank, and as I was reeling in, I was like slowly backing up the hill, just trying to fight this thing in. And there's a little drop off. Well, when I swooped my rod down to try to catch this, to try to get down to this fish to pull it in, felt the slack, took off, snapped my line. I mean, this thing was a giant, and I had a meltdown. But at least it was a good story to tell, and nobody can verify how big it was. But it was big.
But it was really big.
But enough of routines and superstitions. I know everybody's probably got their own stories on those, and I mean, I'd love to hear what your guys' are. So if you want to comment below what your guys' routines or superstitions are, feel free. Maybe we'll read them out loud on a podcast and maybe break down the success rate of these superstitions and everything. But moving on, we're going to talk about fishing season's approaching. It's been a kind of a sucky winter. It's not really been much of a winter except for the last couple of days. But that might mean an early fishing season, or you never know. But we're going to talk about our 5 favorite baits going into this year, and 5 baits that we feel that you guys should go out and make sure that you have them in your tackle box going into this year. Number 1, the old favorite, one of the best baits I've ever used to catch, especially to catch big fish. It's the 10.5-inch Old Monster Gooseberry Worm by Zoom. Me and Logan, I think we kind of discovered this at the same time, and it's been one of our favorite plastics since. And I know because Dick's is like the only place that really sells these around here, and they don't sell them for very long. So I know if I go there, and I don't buy every single pack that they have there, if Logan goes, by the time I go next time, there's not going to be a single one left on the shelf. Because between me and him, we probably buy their whole stock of these. But I mean, a big thing for me is to catch big fish, you got to use a big presentation.
Yeah.
And there's not I don't know of many presentations that are bigger than a 10.5-inch gooseberry worm. You get a nice Texas rig with a good sized weight running on about 6 to 8 feet on the edge of a weed bed midsummer.
Then you go like a lot of larger style baits. Like you get into the 12-inch and the 14s and 16-inch worms, they don't move as well as what you'd like them to.
Yeah, the action on this 10.5 is crazy.
Yeah.
For throwing wise, typically I start using these once that during the dog days of summer, like the 90s and 100 degree days when you're out. Best is when you're in a boat or in a kayak, or where you can get to the edge of a weed bed that runs along a bank. Get to about the 6 to 8 foot range and just run it parallel with the shore. Just run it right along that weed bed because they're sitting in the shade.
Yeah.
And they're coming out, eating, and going back in the shade. So it's gonna be a subtle hit, but once they feel that hook go in, it's over, and it's gonna be a hell of a fight. And it's a fun bait. Sometimes it can be pretty slow start, but once they start hitting it, they don't stop. So that's gonna come in at 1.
And then I would say another reason why this is very successful when it's super hot and super sunny or whatever. Fish are, at least largemouth I know, their eyes are very sensitive to light. So like you won't see large bass necessarily trolling the bank out in the middle of the day when it's like 100 because their eyes are so sensitive they don't really like it. So they won't sit out there. So if you throw that, like you said, you throw that anywhere near the edge of a weed bed where it's close, where they can stay in the dark, not dark, but darker than normal for as long as they can before they make their move. And it gives them that time to feel that bait out. Okay, is this real? Is this not real? Do I want to eat this? They can kind of cruise along next to it. It gives you a better opportunity.
I think what also helps, especially the color wise for this bait and why it works a lot in the time, like late summer, the fish are deeper. And for some reason, the darker the water, they can only see darker baits. So I think when they're sitting in the shade, the water's really dark down where they're at, 6 to 8 feet, they're going to see that way better than they're going to see something white, something bright. And if it's especially if the sun's not necessarily beating down perfect, or if they're in the shade, that's a great bait to use because it's going to beat out your spinner baits and stuff where you're going to have to catch them with a good flash. But the noise of a spinner bait helps. But I think the slow running helps because the fish are a lot slower in the summer because they're obviously cold-blooded, so their blood temperature is really high, which is not going to make them want to move too much. It's the same as if it's really cold.
A lot of energy, yeah.
So I think you're in the point where they don't want to move too much, and so I think you can run it. You have a lot of flexibility with that bait, which makes it just a really great bait when you want to catch big fish in the middle of summer. So you can do number 2.
My number 2 definitely be a spinnerbait. Listen to me when I tell you this. You have to have your large blade as a willow blade. You have to. Your little blade can be a Colorado blade, that's fine.
No double Colorados.
You run double Colorados, I will not talk to you. Ever. You're come up to me on the street, hey man, I run double Colorados, chance I punch you in the eye. Don't come up to me with that disrespect.
I think the DNR needs to go out, and if they see people using double Colorados, take their fishing license away.
Take it away!
Done. You're out. You don't know what you're doing. I don't mind the second blade being Colorado. It gives a nice thump. It gives a nice
water. It
water
pushes
movement.
a lot of water.
I think it's good, especially if you get a bigger blade than that one has. Yeah. I think you get a really good water push. But the willow gives such a great reflection, and it brings so much attention to the bait.
It looks so much better.
I just don't understand why people don't always use a willow as the big blade. It doesn't make sense to me.
One situation, one fish should ever use double Colorados, and that is a muskie or a pike.
But I never understand it. We here despise double Colorados. And
I actually looked up the dude who invented it. Went to his house, peed in his mailbox.
Tom Colorado.
Yeah.
But okay, so I like this bait a lot because I feel like you can use it in almost any. Other than like cold pre-spawn, I feel like the spinnerbait ranges from spawn all the way to right before we stop fishing.
It's incredibly universal. You can slow roll these. You can burn these.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much, and I feel like so we always preach that we don't go out and fish for numbers because we think it's dumb. Why would you want to go out and catch a 112-inch fish when you could go out and, like, if you're going out just to fish for numbers, you don't care about size? Yeah. Because if you say that you really only care about numbers, I feel like you're lying because everybody wants to go out and catch a 6-pound, 7-pound, 8-pound bass. It's the dream. So for me, to present this in a way that it's going to draw in bigger fish, we're going to tag team swim bait. I like the Z-Man a lot. And I like to dip the back end in that chartreuse glow. Yeah. I feel like it gives a really nice look and it gives a smell to it that's going to draw in more fish and bigger fish. So that comes in at number 2 is the white spinner bait and swim bait trailer if you're really trying to put a big fish on the end of the line.
Or even just if you, let me see these. For me at least, if I roll up to a pond, I haven't been there in a month, that pond has grown an excessive amount of grass or like stringy grass that you can't really get anything through. Throw just a belly-weighted swim bait through there, drag it through there, they will hammer it.
Especially, I find that like late summer, early fall, when the water turns over, or right before the water turns over, I feel I have had so much luck with swim baits, tournament-wise, pond-wise, everywhere. Swim baits has always been one of my go-tos later in the season.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 3, which I don't know if we're really ranking these because this might be one of the most universal.
Number 1.
This has to be one of the most universal baits, just as you can use it almost any time of the year. Actually, you really can use it any time of the year. And it's a creature bait. The example we're using is these Guggen bait bandito bugs, which in late years has become one of my favorite creature baits, right up there with Reactive Innovations, the beaver. Those two are my top 2. But this one, the only time I wouldn't prefer using this specific creature bait is when the water's cold, because I feel like the bass are a little sensitive to something with a lot of action.
Yeah.
So I like to use something with just 2 big
tails.
Two big appendages on the end. But throughout the sun. I mean, from pre-spawn till the time you stop fishing when the water freezes, you can go out. If you aren't catching anything on whatever you're throwing, if you tie a creature bait on, a jig, or, I mean, it can either be a jig or a Texas rig, the chances of you catching a fish they skyrocket. Because I feel like you can use it anytime.
That the same way as the spinnerbait as far as universal. Like I said, you can burn those and they'll smoke it. Burn it, let it sit, burn it, let it sit, burn it, let it sit. By burn it, I mean run it fast.
I feel like that's what sets all, like the first three that we've talked about, apart from the last two that we're going to talk about, is all three of these are things that you can use really at any time of the year, and you can use them in a lot of different ways. I mean, because the 10.5 inch, you can Carolina rig it, throw it 20 feet deep if you want to, or you can run it right along the bank. I mean, I've caught fish in 6 inches of water during spawn on those. So, I mean, all three of those baits are incredible. The reason that we're telling you to put them in your tackle box is because they're things that you can use all year. If you're a really experimental fisherman and whatever you're using that day is not working, go back to the basics, hammer the basics, and you will catch fish. I will bet my life on it that maybe not that one day, but if you continue to use these every time you go fishing, you will not get skunked every time.
Yeah.
If you're using them right, I mean, you're gonna catch fish. It's just, I mean, it's a given. This is maybe one of my favorite baits.
Obviously the most fun.
It's
the most fun.
You gotta find the right time to fish these. I find early summer and early fall are the two best times because the fish don't necessarily always come up in the when it's really hot or really cold. But topwater frogs, the white presentation's always been one of my favorites. I have a lot. Like if you went and looked in my topwater box, it's a lot of white frogs, white mice, all that. So
Mice.
This is probably easily the most fun bait to use. You can play around a lot with how you move them, how you run them across, where you run them, and the blow-ups. I mean, if you're a bass fisherman watching this, you already know the blow-ups on a topwater frog are incredible, which makes it one of the top 5 baits to have this year. Because if you want to go out and have a good time and have some big blow-ups, topwater frog's the way to do it. It might be the most fun way to catch a big fish.
One of my favorite things is, obviously, the blow-ups on a bass are incredible with a topwater frog. But, you're winding down your day. You know what? I'm done fishing for topwater, whatever. Getting ready to head out. Take that frog, pitch it up in the tall grass on the bank, and wait. Pop it back to you on the dry pit, in the really shallow water, 3 to 6 inches. A freaking bullfrog will hammer your topwater frog, sometimes harder than a bass.
Yeah.
Hammer it.
Man, I just can't even explain because anytime you hook up with a bass and it's a good-sized bass, I mean, your heart's pumping. But anytime anything blows up on a topwater frog, I feel like there's a lot that goes into making sure that you catch it, get a good hook set, everything. I feel like the pressure, the adrenaline, the heart rate, I mean, your heart's just beating out of your chest, and it's easily one of the best feelings in the world. Just to hook up with a fish on a topwater frog.
And it's one of those baits too, where you can't deny the fact if you lost that fish, everyone knows you lost it, because it'll freaking blows up on top of the water. Think when bass will come out of the water, everyone hears it. Did you catch that? Nope. As you're pulling the thing out from the tree behind you.
That's the worst. You set the hook and you get to duck and move. It's like the Matrix because that thing's flying back at you.
Did you get it? Yeah, I did.
I got my bait back. Don't worry about it. But we'll go into the last one here.
Squarebill. I love a squarebill.
Squarebills are great. There's a lot of versatility that separates a squarebill from a regular crankbait. It took me a long time to figure this out because I always heard people talking about get a squarebill out, bang it around in the woods. And I've always been a in the rough type of fisherman. I like to throw up in brush. I like to throw up in hard places to get into. And that's why I was never I like using crankbaits, but it was never something I pulled out a lot because crankbaits get caught up on a lot. But for some reason, I think it's because squarebills lead with their heads.
It's where they sit.
That when you run them through the woods, they don't get caught. I mean, they will get caught up every once in a while if you hit a spot in a bad way. as will a Texas rig, as will a topwater frog, as will a spinnerbait.
Shit, you're a fisherman. You throw your line in the water, it's bound to get caught in something.
Exactly. But Squarebill, very versatile in the way you can use it for being a crankbait. And if you want to draw out a fish and you want to get them really active, throwing a Squarebill is really fun.
Yeah, for me, I'm really picky about the Squarebills I use. They gotta, I like a really, really sharp edge Squarebill like that. I don't even know if it does anything, but my Squarebills have to have sharp bills on them.
I feel like that's just kind of like a superstition.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
But that, and here's another. There's a Squarebill that has like small eyes proportional to its body, I won't use it.
Oh, I am 100%. I feel like that's one of my superstitions is if I don't like the way a bait looks and I've never used it before and I haven't proven it to be successful, I probably won't use it. Because if I don't like it and I don't think it's going to catch me fish just by looking at it, unless somebody proves me wrong, I ain't using the thing.
Well, I mean, Kale knows. I don't know if a lot of people know this about me personally. If you ever been going and looking or shopping for fish and stuff, if I walk through the store, I will literally walk down there and be like, that looks cool. That looks cool.
I feel like that's all of us. I mean, if you don't go into a fishing store and you see something you've never seen before and you're like, man, I feel like that catch fish, that looks cool, and you ain't grabbing it, are you really a fisherman though? So
that's super cool.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Yellow and black's a good look. I also like the white, like the bluegill color style, shad, those two color styles. But the yellow and black's one of my favorites. I've caught a lot of fish on yellow and blacks.
I even like
Squarebills.
Like what they call like a peanut color, the red.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's got its...
Yeah.
I ain't got trouble with guards for all of them. That's that one. That's Bagley.
That's a Bagley bait, yeah.
Yeah, that thing's nice.
That's bad news. You picked out a bait from a long ways away.
That's good news. That means we know what we're talking about. Boost our credibility.
Yeah.
But,
you guys see that?
We got our baits. Don't worry about it. But yeah, no, that's our top 5 baits going into the season. Kind of closing in on the end of this podcast, but just keep in mind when you're going out and shopping, remember these 5 baits. Keep that in mind, and we really do hope that everybody has a very successful season coming up. People will start fishing in March. That's usually when it starts.
Nope.
Not Logan, but me. I know I will.
Nope.
Because I feel like I've had really good luck early spring.
Oh, these guys catch a lot of fish.
I feel like your chances of catching big fish in the early spring, it's a lot greater because the small fish aren't really. I don't know. We just don't catch a lot of small fish in the early spring. I feel like we're catching anything from 2 to 6 pounders, and that's really that's what we love to do. We love to go out and catch 2 to 6 pounders. We don't like if we can ski it across the water. Might as well get a quick release on that thing and let it pop off because I don't even want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because they're bastards. They just flop around. They try to get you.
Yeah, that's 90% of the play times you get hooked.
And if you're using crankbaits or something with a treble hook, you're probably going to end up with a treble hook in your hand too, and you got a D-hook tooth thing.
There's an 85% chance that if a fish hooks me, I will find the nearest bear. I will feed you to a bear.
Well,
I will feed every fish to a bear.
We have to get in the car and drive a little way.
I'll go to the zoo. I will go to the zoo. I do not care.
Go to Miller Park and just give them a donation.
Yep. Hey,
there's some bear food.
Look what I got for you.
But no, yeah. Definitely wishing every fisherman, every outlaw good luck this year. And comment below ideas for new podcast topics. And feel free if you catch good fish on anything that we've told you about or catch good fish in general, DM it to us. The Heartland Outlaws on Instagram. My Instagram is the Kale Grinlow. His is the Logan Elias. We got kind of a theme going here. It's easy to remember. But I love getting DMs of people catching fish, especially on stuff that we've talked about in these videos. So stay active. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're gonna be posting a lot more. It's the plan this year. We got a lot better filming equipment, a lot better setup for all like these types of videos, a lot better setup for out at the pond type of videos. So, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe below. Give us ideas in the comments. Our comments are open, so if you guys have ideas for videos, ideas for topics to talk about, anything.
Like what's your biggest bass? I win.
Yeah, this bragging rights. Yeah, feel free to comment below. But on that note, I'm going to let y'all go. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on the Get Out There Project podcast. Peace.
See you.